Welcome back to the Relaxing Ghost channel here on YouTube. As always, your host with the most, Ghost. Today we got the Royal Rumble 1994 pay-per-view review. Still gonna try and bust out a couple more Rumble reviews. I know a few of you left some suggestions here, so let's get right to them with the Rumble 1994. This may be one of my least favorite pay-per-view finishes, especially since they planned it this way. So we're going to take a look back into the Rumble Anthology today, Volume 2. And this would be January 22nd, 1994, Providence, Rhode Island, at the Providence Civic Center. This seemed like a pretty decent show on paper, or like as it, progressed. And I do like some aspects of this show. This show opened up with Tatanka versus Bam Bam Bigelow. Love Bam Bam Bigelow. He's always been one of my favorites. And it's cool to see him in another featured match at the Rumble. He was at the Rumble 93 against Big Boss Man, which was a decent match. Tatanka and Bam Bam Bigelow. This is, again, I believe during the $1 Million Corporation kind of time. And decent match overall. I believe Bigelow got the win here once again. Or sorry, Tatanka pinned Bigelow to get the win. So, very strange. They were pushing Tatanka here. I believe he was still undefeated at the time. So Tatanka, wasn't my cup of tea for what they did with him. But it's very strange going back in this era. Everyone's, the occupational worker or whatever. I'm not big on kind of race type gimmicks like Tatanka and other type of, gimmicks like that. Next up, we had the Quebecers and the Hart brothers' history. So this is the point now where we're building up to kind of Owen and Brett possibly winning the tag titles and, forming this awesome tag team. Started at Survivor Series in 93 and, kind of a slow build here, which would end up to a WrestleMania match between the two. I always liked the Owen and Brett. I thought they had great chemistry in the ring. And they were definitely, building storylines in this era. Well built. And you could definitely see that with this storyline. So, the Quebecers do get the win here and retain the tag titles, because referee Tim White stopped the match after Bret Hart's leg was injured. After the match, we get the big heel turn from Owen, and he kicks Bret's leg out of his leg. The famous quote there from Owen Hart. Owen Hart, one of my all-time favorites. I feel like sometimes Owen just doesn't get enough love from the fans. If you bring him up, sure, fans will praise him and whatnot, but, you always hear about, the Pillmans, the Mr. Perfects, the Rick Rudes, and so on and so forth. But, this is prime time Owen Hart in the prime of his career. Next up, for the Intercontinental Championship, Ramon versus IRS. IRS is probably one of the smartest guys in wrestling, you know, from his days with WCW, NWA, transforming into the IRS character, later in the WWF. You know, he's part of that great wrestling family, the Rotundo Wyndham family. Great history with him. I just don't ever feel like Mike Rotundo was at the caliber of being an IC champion. Razor Ramon gets the easy win here. And initially, the referee ruled that IRS had won. And then both wrestlers were knocked out. And later, Dave Hebner comes out and corrects his mistake. Razor Ramon goes on to pin IRS and retains the championship. So, you know, they did a little dusty finish here where they kind of do the big swerve at the end. And, you know, they didn't do that too much back then, you know, the dusty finish where they kind of say, oh, here you go, here's your winner. More with baby faces, not quite as much with the heels. So that's cool to see them do that here. And next up here, we had the casket match for the World Wrestling Federation Championship. Yokozuna defending against the Undertaker. This would be their first of 2 casket matches, I believe, in the same year. It was at Survivor Series 94. They had a return casket match. Yep. So I have great respect for Yokozuna as well as the Undertaker. This match had so much going on for it. And people obviously wanted to see Taker get the big win here and win the World Wrestling Federation Championship once again. I think Taker and Yoko had some of the best chemistry together. You know, they're real life friends, part of the BSK and whatnot. This match turned ugly real quick. You know, you had Jeff Jarrett running out, Adam Bomb, you had Diesel out there. There was so many interferences. I believe, was it the Head Shrinkers or Samu Fatu? You had a whole conglomerate of guys out there, about probably 8 to 10, 12 guys beating the hell out of Taker until finally Yokozuna just kind of brushes him in the casket and retains the championship. This would be a kind of big send-off for Taker, as, you know, he was injured and would miss one of his only WrestleManias. You know, he would miss WrestleMania 10, and then Taker would return at, SummerSlam in 94 for the big Undertaker versus Undertaker match. But I always liked the chemistry between Taker and Yoko, you know, for 2 bigger guys. You know, you could see the agility and whatnot from Yokozuna. Yoko is again so underrated. I think, you know, he gets overlooked at times from other big men such as, you know, Andre and the Big Show and whatnot. But this was during Yoko's big run as champ, which would end at WrestleMania 10. So, you know, that's probably one of the only believable ways to beat The Undertaker in this era. I hated that finish, you know, because people really wanted it. And then the Royal Rumble, the 1994 Royal Rumble match. We had 30 superstars here. Not going to run through everyone, but some notable accomplishments here. The longest superstar in the ring was Bam Bam Bigelow at 31 minutes. This was the year for Diesel. And his big moment in the Royal Rumble, you know, this is where they got that phrase, the Diesel push in the Rumble. You know, Diesel, who was actually a heel, you know, he was part of the whole thing in the casket match, comes out during the Rumble, gets 7 eliminations, the most for the night, and he's over like gangbusters. He's getting a hell of a pop here. Diesel was on fire in this Royal Rumble match. Some Royal Rumble rookies here. We got Bam Bam Bigelow, Adam Bomb, Bastion Booger, I believe didn't even appear. He's one of those guys that either no-showed or whatever. Diesel, Doink, Bart Gunn, Billy Gunn, Jeff Jarrett, Lex Luger, Kabuki, Quang, Mabel and Mo, Sparky Plug, and then Rick and Scott Steiner. Yeah, the Macho Man in there, Owen Hart. This Rumble actually feels like it's quite loaded. We, of course, had Shawn Michaels, Greg the Hammer Valentine, who seemed, you know, kind of out of place in this Rumble. You know, Greg Valentine was bigger in the early 80s, more so in the new generation. So he was like a kind of legend. You had Tenryu once again in the Rumble. Marty Jannetty, Virgil, Bob Backlund. I'm so surprised to see Bob Backlund in some of these Rumbles, and just amazes me the shape this man was in. Let's talk about the winners here. Lex Luger comes out at number 23, and Bret the Hitman Hart at number 27. I'm not a fan of this by any means. This 2-man winning the Royal Rumble, I don't like it at all. They tried it. It didn't work at all. The fans were clearly behind Bret Hart here. I mean, there was a good portion cheering for Luger as well, but I think they really wanted Bret to win. And man, this was not the right direction to go. I think they really wanted to push Luger at this time. You know, they built him up since the U.S. Intrepid, whatever it was called, July 4th the previous year. And for whatever reason, Vince was reluctant to put the belt on him. They did this at the Rumble, which obviously turned to shit. And then they did the double title match at WrestleMania 10. This is probably one of my least favorite finishes from the Royal Rumble. I would say this is the worst Rumble of all time. You know, but then we get to 95, you know, which I'm not a fan of either. So who should have won this? I would have said Bret, 100%. We had Vince McMahon and Ted DiBiase on commentary, which was cool. It's hard to say in this era because they had so many different guys on commentary after, you know, Gorilla and Bobby left. You know, from Mr. Perfect, Roddy Piper, Ted DiBiase. There was a lot of different guys on color. Overall, I'm probably going to give this, you know, about a 5 out of 10 for a pay-per-view, which is not good. It started off promising and, you know, quickly went downhill. So let me know your thoughts, guys. We'll talk to you later. Peace.